All right, let's return to Vote 2025, two key races. We have closely followed for months the race for mayor in New York City and the race for governor in New Jersey.
Early voting is over in New York and in New Jersey. Now it's up to the people going to the polls on Election Day to determine the results.
Yeah, so joining us now with more is David Birdsell, Senior Vice President for Academic Affairs at Kean University. Thank you so much for being here. David, let's start with this. We saw over 735,000 New Yorkers early voted. I believe in 2021 it was around 100,000. So we're talking a lot of people came out. What does this mean about voter engagement in this race between the candidates?
Well, we won't know until we see what the turnout looks like on Tuesday. But all indications are that this is a more engaged electorate. We have problems in New York historically on our off-cycle election schedule. It's hard to get people out to the polls, but it looks like we'll probably get a bigger turnout this year, and that is probably good news for Zohran Mamdani.
So some polls show that Mamdani's lead is shrinking to single digits, with Cuomo gaining ground. What factors are driving the late momentum shift, and how reliable are these polls?
Well, first, exactly to your last point, it's not clear that there is a momentum shift, but if there is, there may be people who are having second thoughts about a very young candidate, no matter what his talents. He just turned 34. He hasn't had a significant administrative post ever in his life. And of course, you don't get bigger by a great margin than mayor of New York City when we're talking about local politics. But the polls right now, the big question is, who's going to show up and vote, who has already voted in terms of early voting. If it's a younger electorate, if it's a new electorate, if there are people who are voting for the first time, then those people are more likely to be Zohran Mamdani voters. If it's an older electorate, if there are people who are voting multiple times and have often in the past supported Andrew Cuomo in his races for statewide office, that's going to favor Andrew Cuomo. So it's really a question of the turnout model, and we just don't know who's going to show up on Tuesday. We have a better idea of who showed up early, and indeed that group skews a little bit younger, a little bit more Democratic than is the case for what we would generally expect of a general election electorate.
Before I ask you about New Jersey, has that dynamic changed at all in the last few months, Cuomo, Mamdani?
Remains to be seen. What we know historically, going back to the spring, is that Mamdani turned out an unprecedentedly large group of new voters, people who had never gone to the ballot box before, and they disproportionately voted for him. If they're back in the mix for the general election, if their enthusiasm carried over from the spring, that's going to be very good news for him. And again, when we look at the polling numbers, you've really got to look at how they compose their sense of what the electorate will be. And that's the biggest challenge for polling these days, because we've had such swings from people who never voted to people who sometimes vote, and that's happened on both the left and the right ends of the political spectrum.
Right. We poll to find out what people are thinking, and we find out we don't know. Okay, so let's switch to New Jersey. Governor's race, nearly 1.2 million people in New Jersey cast ballots early. What, if anything, does the early turnout signal about the competitiveness of Cheryl Chitterelli?
Some of the same things that I would say about New York, but with smaller margins. You had a somewhat more heavily Democratic turnout in the early voting than a Republican turnout. That's good news for Mikey Sherrill. That could be erased on Election Day, depending on how many people come, particularly in the southern portion of the state, on Tuesday. And that's something that everybody's going to be looking at very, very closely. Those early votes in New Jersey skewed a little bit older rather than younger. And that's better news for Jack Chitterelli. If you take the younger electorate, that's more of a Mikey Sherrill base, and we'll see exactly how these numbers toed up when we're done with voting tomorrow evening.
Now, the contest is only one of two gubernatorial races happening this year. It's drawing a lot of national attention, obviously, right? We're talking about people believing that this could be a preview of the 2026 midterms, an early gauge of what they think about President Donald Trump and his administration. So what do you think about this race, state issues, or is this really about state issues, you feel, or the national issues with the Trump administration?
Well, it's a little bit of both. You have two candidates in Mikey Sherrill in New Jersey and in Abigail Spanberger in Virginia, who are centrist Democrats. Mikey Sherrill with a defense background, Abigail Spanberger with a clandestine services background. She was a CIA agent for a period of her life, as well as a prosecutor. And both of them are trying to shoot right down the middle rather than toward the left of the party. So it's really a test of one strategy, not two. two, and of course there are differences between their campaigns. Very close, by the way. They're actually roommates in Washington, D.C. when they're serving together in the House. So there is unquestionably a test of the appeal of Donald Trump stylistically and in terms of his policies. Almost all of his policies right now are underwater in terms of popular approval. So the way that those resonate in each state makes a huge difference. And remember, with Virginia, you've got that enormous federal employment ring around the district, counties of Alexandria, Arlington, and Fairfax, where you have hundreds of thousands of federal employees, every single one of them right now furloughed. So you've got a difficult situation to make a case for Republican politics in Virginia, which has been trending purple to relatively more reliably blue, and Spanberger has a bigger margin right now than Mikey Sherrill does based on recent polls.
Well, David Birdsell, we appreciate you bringing us this insight. We're all looking forward to what tomorrow brings. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
A reminder for tomorrow, everybody. Polls are open in New York City from 6 in the morning to 9 at night. In New Jersey from 6 until 8. Be sure to make your voice heard. And we invite you to join us tonight, 5:30, for the Eyewitness News Guide to the Election. We'll have everything you need to know about the mayor's race in New York, the governor's race in New Jersey, and the issues that are shaping this election cycle, what everybody's talking about. That's tonight, 5:30, right here on Channel 7.